Hello again everyone, it's Nature Girl Gaming, and today I'm going to be reading a book. I think that this will be very interesting, and I'm incredibly excited about this. So the book is a book that I have made. It's completely original. It is called Wolves of Wind, Book 1, Feathers. I hope you all enjoy. Skypack. Alpha. Pine. Brown male wolf with unusual green eyes and yellow wings. Fighters. Ebony, black she-wolf with gray eyes and blue wings. Silver. Light gray and white she-wolf with pale yellow eyes and teal wings. Bold. Dark gray male wolf with brown splotches and orange eyes and red wings. Pepper. Light brown male wolf with a white chin and bright eyes and yellow wings. Tawny. Golden gray and brown she-wolf with dark gray eyes and green wings. Grass. Golden male wolf with a brown back and dark yellow eyes and dark green wings. High flyers. Rock. Gray male wolf with orange eyes and maroon wings. Copper. Dark brown she-wolf with a white chin and pale orange eyes and white wings. Blue. Silver and black she-wolf with unusual blue eyes and light blue wings. Scramble. Amber male wolf with a lighter chest and yellow eyes and black wings. Flame. Golden she-wolf with pale green eyes and iridescent silver wings. Dames. Forest. Dark gold dame with bright yellow eyes and bright green wings. Ice. White dame with pale eyes and violet wings. Apprentices. Goldie. Golden she-wolf with pale green eyes. Boulder. Gray male wolf with blind eyes. Ivy. Small gray she-wolf with pale eyes. Pups. Rain. Silver she-pup with orange eyes. Dusty. Golden she-pup with yellow eyes. Dawn. Dark brown male pup with orange eyes. Star. Albino male pup. Riverpack. Alpha. Atlas. White she-wolf with ice blue eyes. Fighters. Briar. Light brown she-wolf with pale green eyes. Feather. White she-wolf with 3 legs and yellow eyes. Wish. Black she-wolf with orange eyes. Comet. Gray male wolf with a silver back and gray eyes. Thorn. Tan male wolf with a long tail and dark yellow eyes. Lynx. Dark gray she-wolf with light yellow eyes. Long swimmers. Cedar. Mud-covered male wolf with yellow eyes. Birch. White speckled she-wolf with orange eyes. Pool. Gray she-wolf with light gray eyes. Splatter. Gray to white male wolf with light orange eyes. Sand. Tan she-wolf with pale eyes. Dames. Lake. Light gray dame with gray eyes. Apprentice. Skipper. Brown and white male wolf with yellow eyes. Pups. Ewe. Amber and brown male wolf with dark yellow eyes. Bird. Tan she-wolf with dark gray eyes. Loners. Branch. Brown male elder wolf with silver eyes and purple wings. Ghost. Albino she-wolf with crimson wings. Chapter 1. Dreams. Rain looked up at the full moon, watching the alpha above her on Moon Rock. Do you promise that you will serve your pack, the Sky Pack, from now until you die and after? Asked the brown wolf. His wings shone bright yellow in the moonlight. Yes, Alpha, I promise, Rain yelped. Rain felt wings sprouting out of her back and saw that they were speckled and a beautiful shade of blue. She had waited so long for her wings. Dawn, Star, and Dusty were beside her. All of them sprouted wings as well. Rain was snapped out of her dream by the sound of a bird squawking. She growled at the bird as she stood up and looked around her den. Her mother Forest was talking to Ice. Ice moved to the nursery a few days ago once she had started showing. Forest walked over to where Dusty, Rain, Star, and Dawn were playing. Okay, pups, today is your first day out of the den. Remember to stay together and don't leave the camp. Okay, Mama, the 4 pups all said in unison. We promise we will be good. Rain looked around at the clearing, wide-eyed. She saw Pine ordering the lift of the High Flyers. High Flyers patrolled Skypack's territory for Riverpack wolves. Dawn tackled her and they rolled forwards, right into the prey pile. A large squirrel fell on her head and several of the fighters and remaining high flyers snickered. A gray apprentice stalked up and told the other wolves to go eat some mouse dung. "Are you okay?" asked the apprentice as he leaned forwards. When Rain looked at his face, she saw that he had milky white eyes. He was blind. Wren looked up at the wolf and said, "Yeah, I think so." She pushed the squirrel off her head and asked the wolf's name. "My name is Boulder," he said happily. Boulder walked back over to the apprentice's lounge. Dawn ran over to her and said, "Sorry, Rain, I didn't mean to embarrass you." "It's okay, Dawn. I don't mind much," she said, wagging her tail. "Hey," Dawn said, "I've heard a story that if a pup is brave, they can be apprenticed sooner. So maybe if we leave the camp and come back with food, we'll be made apprentices today," said the cheerful pup. "What?" Rain asked in shock. "But we promised Mama we wouldn't leave the camp, and we shouldn't break our promises." "Well, I know I'm going. So if you don't want to come with me, I guess I'll be older than everyone." "That's not how that works, but I won't let you go alone, Dawn. I'm coming with you." Dawn smirked and said, "Cool. Let's go now, before Mother calls us back in." Rain knew no good could come of this, but she was still curious about what could possibly be out there. She and Dawn snuck out of the camp, and Dawn pointed out tons of things. They found a small lake and drank from it, but eventually they decided to go back home. Mother would worry if they didn't. "Hey, look at that," Dawn said, pointing to a huge tree. "I dare you to climb it," Dawn said. No. I said we could explore, not put our lives in danger." "Fine, Scaredy Wolf. I'll climb it and show you there's nothing to be scared of." Dawn wagged his tail as he climbed to the first branch of the tree. "Dawn, stop!" Rain called, her tail between her legs as she watched her brother climb higher and higher. Soon Dawn reached each branch. He slipped a few times, and every time he did, Rain yelped. Eventually Dawn made it to the top of the tree and gasped, "I can see all the way to the bloodstones." Suddenly a wolf flew by and gusted a blast of wind that made Dawn lose his balance. "Dawn!" cried Rain. "Get down from there now! It's not safe!" Dawn tried to gain his balance, but came hurtling to the ground. He shrieked as he fell, and Rain looked up at the figure. The wolf was cloaked in mud, and his wings beat hard. To Rain's horror, the wolf was blowing Dawn into the branches. Each time he hit a branch, he yelped and bones snapped. Rain heard a sickening crack as Dawn landed on a stone and his head split open. Chapter 2 of Wolves of Wind, Book 1, Feathers. Omens. "Wake up! Wake up! Wake up! Wake up!" cried Rain. Thick tears streamed down her face as she turned to look at the wolf who had done this. But the wolf was gone. Rain licked Dawn's face and whispered, "It's going to be okay. It has to be." "Rain? Dawn?" called a voice from the other side of the trees. It was Blue and Scramble, the high flyers. "We're here," Rain called weakly. "We need help." Blue poked her silver and black head out from behind a tree and ran over to Dawn when she saw his injuries. "You need to help him," Rain howled desperately into the air. "We'll see what we can do," whispered Scramble, his tail tucked under his legs. As soon as they all got back to camp, Rain's mother started crying and shouting at her, but Rain did not listen. She was too worried about her brother to listen. She heard a voice behind her and turned, wiping her tears. A white wolf with pretty blue eyes approached. Rain did not recognize this wolf. Rain stared in awe at the wolf as it came closer. It was holding a purple flower in its jaws. "Eat," whispered the wolf in a tone that somehow sounded both like wolf speak and like a breath of wings. Rain licked the flowers. They tasted sweet like honeysuckle, and Rain soon passed out. Rain awoke in a green flower-filled meadow. It smelled of prey and water, and she felt calm here. What had she been worried about again? She looked around and saw the white wolf coming closer, followed by a small brown shape. "Dawn!" She gasped in relief as she ran over to the pup, but she passed straight through them. "Dawn? Hey, where are you taking my brother?" The white wolf continued walking. So did Dawn. They couldn't hear her. Suddenly the sky lit up with a bright pink flash. Rain yelped and tried to run, but it felt almost like she was floating. She looked down, and to her amazement she was floating towards the sky. She passed through the clouds and landed on them. She saw a silver wolf with beautiful violet wings and orange eyes sitting in the middle of a lush forest. She saw that the prey pile was filled with food, enough for several moons. The silver wolf climbed onto what appeared to be a moon rock. She sat beside a white she-wolf, and they called the pack to them for a prey share. All the wolves ate at once, not like in the pack where the alpha ate first. After they were done eating, Rain was whisked back down to the ground. She awoke in the nursery cave. Her mother and siblings were nowhere in sight. So she walked out of the den and into the clearing. To her horror, her siblings, mother, and her father Bold were all huddling around a small dark shape. "No!" she cried, running over to where Don's corpse lay. She felt her heart crack into a million pieces. Don's blood had been cleaned off and his eyes had been closed. He looked like he was asleep, and Rain wondered why apprentices had to make him look like this. The pack had apprentices practice making bodies look like they were sleeping, and Rain hated that her brother had become practice. Her mother licked her head, too, filled with sorrow to be angry at Rain for leaving. Pine flew down in front of the grieving wolves. His yellow wings flapped as he landed. Today is a sad day, for one of Skypack's youth has died. Today, Forrest and Bold's pup Don has fallen from a tree while exploring outside of camp. His voice was sad, but his eyes shone with pride. Ryan had something else to say. She jumped forwards and yelped, "It was a wolf from our pack!" Skypack's ears pricked and several wolves howled in disbelief. "Why would you think that?" asked Pine, his ears pricked and his eyes round with surprise. "Because I saw a winged wolf knocked Don out of the tree. When I looked back at them, they were flying away, and I smelled faint Skypack scent, so it was not a loner." Wolves began to panic, and Pine had to shout to get them to stand still. "Everybody calm down. We'll get this under control, and when we do, the murderer will pay." Wolves of Wind, Book 1, Feathers. Chapter 3, Growth. Does the murderer want to confess and save themselves from death? Nobody raised so much as their ears. "Did you see anything else, Rain?" The Alpha spoke calmly, but his eyes were filled with terror. "The wolf was an adult, and they were covered in sticky mud, but that's all I saw," she whimpered. "Are you really going to trust a pup? A pup who has been through a traumatic experience, no less?" called a voice from the crowd. Iridescent wings flapped in distress as Flame the High Flyer stepped forwards. Flame was one of the oldest High Flyers and one of the most experienced as well. "I trust this pup because we need proof, and no one else was at the event when it happened. And we know that they did not kill him, so she is the best fact we have." Flame grunted in annoyance, but accepted the word of the Alpha. I think it might have been Ebony," whispered a shy voice from the crowd. Rain looked over, and to her surprise, it was Grass. Grass had always been a shy wolf who hardly ever spoke. "Why would you think this?" Alpha said as Grass stepped forwards. "Ebony had snuck out of camp last night. I followed her, but she flew above the clouds, so I lost her trail," said Grass as he looked down. Pine looked from Ebony to Grass, then back to Ebony. "What were you doing when you snuck away?" he asked in almost a snarl. "No, Alpha, I swear I never snuck away." Alpha snarled at Grass. "Is this something you were lying about?" "No, I swear. It could have been any of the black wolves. I just thought I had seen Ebony." Rain yelped to get the other wolves' attention. "The wolf that attacked Dawn had a cloak of mud, so that means that Ebony would never have time to put the mud on and let it stick and grow hard." Pine nodded, and so did Ebony. Grass grumbled as he stepped back into the crowd. 4 days later. Rain, Star, and Dusty stood close to each other. The full moon shone bright, and Alpha stood on the moon rock. "You promise that you will serve your pack, the Sky Pack, from now until you die and after?" asked the brown wolf. His wings shone bright yellow in the moonlight. "Yes, Alpha, I promise," Rain yelped. Rain felt the moonlight fall onto her back, and she felt something sizzle on her spine. Then Rain felt wings sprouting out of her back, and saw that they were violet and well-muscled and shimmered in the moonlight. She would be a fighter. It felt like she was still in her dream. Of course her wing color was different, but that was But other than that, it was the same. Star and Dusty stood beside her, just like in her dream, and sprouted wings as well. Star's wings were crimson, most likely because he was albino. Star's wings were thin and long. He would be a high flyer for sure. Dusty's wings were well muscled and a dark shade of purple. He would be a fighter too. The Alpha howled, then the fighters, then the dames and high flyers, then lastly the apprentices joined in the howl. Dusty, Star, and Rain shot into the air, dipping and diving over the crowd. The pack stopped howling, and the three new apprentices landed softly on the ground. Rain stepped back into the large crowd of wolves as the three older apprentices stepped forwards. Goldie, Ivy, Boulder. The Alpha spoke with purpose, as if a murder had never happened. Do you swear that from now on you will trust and respect our laws, and work hard with your pack until you die, no matter the cost? Yes, all three apprentices said at once. They wagged their tails and flapped their wings. Then I now pronounce you through your titles. Goldie, you grow wings long and thin. You will be a high flyer. Goldie flapped her mint green wings happily as she went to join the other high flyers, and her mentor Copper. Boulder was a high flyer, and Ivy was a fighter. They both joined their mentors and flew in lazy circles around the clearing. Rain's mentor was Bold, Star's mentor was Blue, and Dusty's mentor was Ebony. Bold stalked over to Rain. "Hello, Princess," he said, flapping his red wings as he spoke. Bold was Rain's father, and it was very rare for a parent to mentor their own pup, because the parents might go easy on the apprentice. Today we'll explore the territory. Tomorrow we'll practice fighting. Wolves of Wind, Book 1, Feathers. Chapter 4, Bird. This is the stream that separates Skypack territory and Riverpack territory. We can both drink from it and cool off in it, but don't cross. Bold's voice was stern but not angry. Rain looked around in awe. This was the first time she had been out in the forest, with an adult permission, of course. She smelled a faint scent on the breeze and looked back to Bold. He was still talking about the territory. "Hello?" she whispered as she followed the scent. She saw a pair of dark gray eyes shining from under a bush. "Shh, they'll see me," whispered the creature under a bush. "Who are you?" Rain whispered as a white she-wolf crawled out from under the bush. The wolf was an apprentice. They had small webbed paws and dark gray eyes. "My name is Bird. What about you?" Rain wanted to defend the territory, but this she-wolf seemed special for some reason. "I'm Rain," she said, wagging her tail. "I'm sorry I'm on your territory. I was seeing if I could hide my scent." "You need more practice. I could have smelled you all the way from Bloodstones." "Don't speak nonsense. Bloodstones doesn't exist. It's just a pup tale the elders will tell you so that you don't run out of camp," squeaked Bird. "Riverpack wolves," Rain grumbled. Bloodstones was where the first Riverpack Alpha and the first Skypack Alpha had fought for the land. Ancients had come down from the clouds and trapped them in the land, with no way to escape. Legend has it that one of the ancients had been posted guard and killed anyone who got too close to the border, even pups. But Riverpack wolves did not believe in the large battle-stained cliff that had enclosed their territory. "Well, what do you think caused that big earth wall enclosing our territory?" Rain said snootily. "Obviously the tectonic plates met here and formed into a bowl," she said, holding her paw to bat Rain's nose. "The what now?" Rain said, pushing Bird's paw away. "Rain, when did you stake away?" Rain saw Bold's form coming closer. She looked back at Bird to tell her to leave now, but the small she-wolf was already far past the river, on Riverpack's side of the territory. "Sorry, I saw a rabbit and decided to chase after it. I am really sorry." Rain was pretty good at lying, and she could be pretty pitiful anyways. So it didn't surprise Rain when Bold said, "It's all right. Did you catch the rabbit?" "No, I got pretty close, but it ran across the border." "Ah, I'm sure Riverpack Wolf will return it if they catch it. When we catch stray beavers, we always return them, and Riverpack Wolves won't eat rabbits," Bold said cheerfully. Rain turned to look at the border again and saw a message. What it said confused her. It said, "Meet tomorrow at the border, sunset. See you there." Wolves of Wind, Book 1, Feathers. Chapter 5, Ghosts. Rain ran through the damp forest. The sunset sky blazed golden on her silver pelt. She had gone against her smarts and decided to meet at the border. Alone, almost at night. She had been told not to sneak out of camp, even though she was an apprentice now. The song about the she-wolf bird was so interesting. She tripped over a rock and face-planted in the small stream. "Ack!" she yelped a little too loudly for a secret meeting. "Slow down, you crazy wolf!" yelped a noise from the other side of the stream. "You nearly ran into me." "Sorry, I was worried I would be late, so I rushed." "Well, you were late, but that doesn't matter. You're here now. Anyways, I wanted to talk to you about something I saw earlier." Rain's ears perked. Could Bird know something about her brother's death? What? What did you see?" "Well, I was out with my mentor, and I saw a white wolf talking to a wolf cloaked in mud. I didn't see the age, and they were too far away to tell the gender. But I think there might be—" Bird's sentence was cut short as a white she-wolf with crimson wings and pale red eyes ran into the clearing. It tried to slow itself, but crashed into Bird. They both toppled into the river. The albino she-wolf recovered first. Its eyes were panicked as it stared at the two apprentices. Bird recovered right after and leapt at it, but it flew up out of the way. Rain flew to meet the wolf, but it was a full-grown wolf and dodged sharply to the side, making Rain topple head over tail. It fell back to the ground. "Halt!" called a voice from the other side of the forest. It was Pepper, the fighter. Bird leapt into the water just in time to hide from the wolves. The albino wolf fled as well, leaving Rain there, and she wasn't supposed to be here in the middle of the night either. Rain flew up into the trees and stood on top of one. She managed to get her tail out of sight right as Pepper and Tawny burst into the clearings, each of their jaws snapping. "They must have flown across the border," Tawny said in her honey-sweet voice. "Must have, and we shouldn't trespass on Riverpack's territory. That would be heavily punishable." Rain's sister, Dusty, bursted into the clearing, snoring playfully. Rain wished she could just confess to everything, but she knew she couldn't. If she did, Bird would never be able to finish her sentence, and then Rain wouldn't be able to sleep. Tawny, Dusty, and Pepper walked away, not glancing back. Bird poked her head out of the stream as Rain flew down and out of the tree. "That was close, but the albino wolf escaped. I bet that was the wolf I had seen before." "You're right. If we had caught it, we could have questioned it," growled Rain. "Oh no, it's nearly sunrise. You need to get back to camp before someone misses you." "Oh right. Well, but what about—" "Don't worry. I'll get back to camp too, and I can tell you about what I was about to tell you later. Tomorrow, maybe." "No, that wouldn't work." "Well, I'll see you tomorrow at the same time?" "Sorry, I have night swimming lessons," Bird said apologetically. "But we can meet tomorrow. Anyways, you need to go now." "Yeah, of course," said Rain solemnly. "See you tomorrow, the day after tomorrow." Wolves of Wind, Book 1, Feathers. Chapter 6, Ambush. Rain leapt into the air, catching the pheasant swiftly in her jaws. She flew back to the ground, expecting to see Bold's proud face staring up at her, but for some reason Bold wasn't there. "Bold? Bold, where are you?" Rain was starting to get concerned after she searched for quite some time. She dug a small hole and dropped her pheasant in it so that she could come back after she found Bold and they could carry it back to camp together. Rain saw footprints and followed them. She knew they were Bold's. "Bold, is this some kind of joke?" Rain asked as she saw the paw prints turn bloody. Rain smelled wolf blood. She ran faster, aware that they still did have a murderer on the loose. Rain skidded to a halt as she saw a bloody gray and brown shape. "Bold!" Rain ran over to him and nudged his pelt. She could tell he was breathing faintly. "Bold, are you okay?" she whimpered. Black wolf," he stammered. Then his eyes glazed over. Black wolf? It must have been Ebony. Grass had said it was her. Why hadn't she listened? Rain nuzzled her father's body. She had to carry him back. Rain lifted him by the scruff and flew into the air. The camp was nearby, and she saw wolves flying above the forest. The high flyers saw Rain and flew towards her. Rain looked closer and saw that they were blue and copper. "Oh, my dog! Who did this?" Copper asked in terror as she got close enough to see the body. I don't know. He was alive when I found him. He said something about a black wolf, though. Blue's mind seemed to be going to the same place as Rain's as he lifted Bold and took off towards camp. Ebony had been called out by Grass when Rain's brother Don died, so Ebony was the obvious killer. Copper helped Rain get back to the camp. She had lost her father, her mentor. It was all too much. What happened out there? Pine asked as Copper and Blue lay Bold's bloody, tattered body on the grass. Wolves clouded around the body, trying to get a better look. Rain was not looking at her father. She was looking at Ebony. Many wolves were glaring at Ebony, and she seemed to notice because her ears flattened and she began sneaking away from the camp. "Get her!" Pine called, noticing her trying to run away. His ears were flattened and his big fangs shimmered with anger. Ebony tried to take to the skies, but Silver's white pelt flashed in the sunlight as she leapt onto Ebony, snarling and snapping. Grass looked away, seemingly hiding his face. A tooth showed on the side of his mouth, and Rain assumed he was snarling, most likely because he had been right all along. Pine flew down to the moon rock and stood in front of Rain. How had this even happened? How had she lost her mentor? Why did he leave? "Did you see any evidence it was Ebony?" he asked, still snarling from the attack. "Yes, when I found Bold he was alive. He said something about a black wolf. It must have been Ebony." Pine snarled and turned to Ebony. "Kill her," he snarled loudly. Rain was shocked as wolves tried to pile onto her. Pine had always been kind to his pack, although Ebony didn't deserve life. She was a murderer. Ebony shrieked and pleaded, but somehow managed to shake off the wolves and bolt into the air. She flew away, with many wolves chasing after her, but one of them grabbed her and dragged her down. "What's going on?" Forrest asked as she exited the nursery. "Bold!" she screeched, running over to where the bloody corpse lay. "Help!" Ebony screamed as one of the wolves bit her wing and tugged hard, clearly trying to break it. Suddenly, a huge roar split the battle, giving Ebony time to fly away towards Riverpack's territory. The alpha snarled and turned to look at who interrupted the slaughter. Rain turned as well, and to her surprise, she saw the albino wolf from before staring up at them with rage-filled eyes. "Get her!" Pine screamed as the blood-soaked wolves flew after her. But suddenly, the albino wolf turned to face her enemies. She spread her crimson wings, and in the sunlight they shone glimmering purple. She let out a screech that sounded like a rabbit's death cry, and suddenly the sky split behind her, showing a black void and shimmering stars sprinkled through the darkness. Night had fallen on the camp. The wolves stopped and stared at the bright starry sky. As suddenly as they had turned, a new voice joined in the screeching. A white wolf with bright blue eyes flew out of the void as it closed. Something about the wolf seemed familiar. Suddenly it clicked. It was the wolf that had shown her a prophecy when Dawn had... Wolves of Wind Book 1, Feathers, Chapter 7, Wonder. Rain stood there, her mouth open wide. The other wolves around her seized attack and landed, staring at the untrustworthy white wolves. "They're ghosts! Retreat!" Grass screeched, running away into the forest. It was normal that he was so scared. He was a cowardice omega. A few other wolves retreated after him. Surprisingly, Silver, one of their strongest wolves, was following after him. The camp erupted into chaos as wolves ran around in a panic. "Stop!" roared the alpha. The remaining wolves screeched to a halt to look at the furious alpha. "I won't have this," he called, panting, clearly trying himself not to panic. They were just normal wolves using a light trick to scare us. "But the sky split open. Isn't that what the wolves did when the Skypacks got wings?" Rain wasn't sure who called from the crowd, but she could have sworn it was Forrest. "Yeah, it happened before, so why not again?" Dusty called, stepping forwards. "The ghosts used all their magic to stop the fighting and imprison us in this crater. They died while making it, and I simply refuse to believe that ghosts would come down from the stars just to harm our own business," the alpha said with eyes particularly scared for someone who didn't believe. A few of the wolves looked doubtful, but they clearly knew better than to question Alpha about this matter, so they began to swiftly say their goodbyes to Bold before covering him in a blanket of dirt. Rain couldn't help notice that her father and brother were buried next to each other. That night she dreamed of two mud-cloaked wolves with gleaming red eyes staring down at her. Their teeth stained blood red from their last kill. It sickened her that the wolves had killed her brother and her father. Whoever the wolves were clearly wanted her family dead. She was awoken by a large bark and her head shot up. as her eyes adjusted to the sunrise light. She was able to make out her mother and Grass talking to each other. "Never!" Forrest snarled, walking away from the stunned golden male. Forrest realized that Rain was awake and stalked over to her, shaking off whatever trouble she was having with Grass. "You're awake," she said happily. Yeah, what was going on with you and Grass?" Rain asked, standing up. "Nothing, dear. He was just being a little disrespectful of Bold, that's all." Now Rain was really interested. But before she could ask any more questions, Pine howled to call a clan meeting. Rain rushed out of the den, realizing what this meeting must be even before the Alpha said. As many of you know, Rain's mentor Bold was killed last night, so we must pick her a new mentor. Any wolves that are not currently mentors and are older than 2 years, please step forwards and say your names if you would like to take this apprentice as your own. Silver, Grass, and Tawny all stepped forwards, all of them wearing different expressions. Silver looked timid among the older wolves. Tawny looked enthusiastic about possibly getting her first apprentice, and Grass looked eager to be chosen for the second time, despite having to shake off the fight that he had had before. Alpha studied the 3 wolves closely, then he finally spoke. "Grass, you have been a mentor before, and this gives you much more experience for the partially trained apprentice. You will be the new mentor to Rain." Rain cautiously walked up to Grass and they touched noses. She ran back to the apprentices' lounge as quickly as possible. "We also have another problem to address," Alpha said as the wolves began clearing the area. "Since Ebony was the mentor of Dusty, this means that Dusty must be assigned a new mentor as well. There will be no vote, however, as I have already chosen a new mentor." Several wolves murmured as Rock stepped forwards. Rain knew that Rock was Ebony's older brother, so it made sense that he would be her mentor. But he was 12 years old. He would be retiring soon, so how could he care for an apprentice at such an old age? Rock touched his old wrinkled nose to Dusty's small black nose. Dusty didn't even flinch, and Rain felt her pelt grow hot about running away from her mentor. Eventually, Grass walked over to her with a stern look on his face. "Tomorrow we will train your night flying." Wolves of Wind Book 1, Feathers, Chapter 8, Flight. Rain flew through the dark pine trees, twisting her body into thin-spaced barrel rolls as she raced to keep up with her mentor. Grass had taken her to the thickest part of the forest for night flying practice, and Rain was starting to wonder if Grass even wanted her to succeed. She hoped he did. Rain tucked her wings and dove down to the forest floor, skimming the bottom. She knew that she could gain a little more speed and hopefully sweep herself up and tackle Grass from underneath. That's what he had told her to do. Rain felt that she had gone far enough and pulled herself back up to the higher level of the pine forest. But for some reason, Grass wasn't there. She felt her heart skip a beat as she realized that she was no longer in the pine forest, but instead the oak forest that lined the border camp. She called out into the darkness for Grass as she realized that there was still one murder on the loose. Had it gotten him? Surely she would have heard a yelp. Rain began wondering if this was some cruel prank. But surely Grass wouldn't play a prank like this. She yelped as a wolf tackled her. It was cloaked in mud and she couldn't see its eyes in the darkness. She struggled to get free and realized that it was the same size as her. An apprentice? But why would an apprentice be attacking her? She clawed wildly at the wolf as it leaned down to bite her throat. But she knew that the mud cloaking it was blocking her claws as they tried to find skin. "Let her go!" screeched a sound from across the riverbank. Suddenly, a white she-wolf leapt at the mud-covered wolf, clawing at its back and hanging on despite the mud-soaked wolf's thrashing. To Rain's horror, she saw that Bird and the muddy figure were unwarily rolling towards a nearby ledge. Rain knew that the ledge led down to a rocky waterfall with mist that would quickly stain red. Rain closed her eyes, not wanting to witness the slaughter of her friend. She heard a shriek as the 2 wolves plummeted down the ledge. Rain opened her eyes as adrenaline blazed as she ran for the cliff, gaining momentum as she leapt at the edge and plummeted down towards the mist. She could faintly see Bird falling closer and closer to the rocks at the end of the waterfall as they both plummeted. But Rain had an advantage. She had wings. She tucked her wings like a falcon would if they were hunting prey. She saw the mud-soaked wolf fly above her, or back to solid ground, and Rain wished she could do the same. But she had to save Bird. She had saved her. Rain dove so fast that tears spilled from her eyes, but she managed to catch up to Bird. Now how did she carry her? Rain knew that grabbing Bird by the scruff might just tear her head off, and Rain really didn't want to be traumatized. Rain saw that Bird was still conscious and realized that she might just have to put her life in danger and trust Bird to save her. But it was the only way that they could both live. Rain dove down under Bird and allowed Bird to fall on her back, but in doing so, Rain plummeted to the water. Rain knew that she was moving much less quickly than Bird would have, and therefore she would only be knocked unconscious by the water, but she hoped that Bird would be able to swim her to the shore. But it was a risk even though she had to take. Rain flapped her wings to slow the momentum of her fall, although she couldn't complete a full flap because Bird was on her back. Rain splashed into the water and kicked her legs, although her heavy waterlogged wings made it very hard for her to swim, and she soon sank farther towards the sandy water. She could see Bird swimming down to reach her. Bird's webbed feet gracefully propelled her through the water. Bird's fur also was meant for swimming, and it was shorter like an otter's. Rain's vision grew darker and darker from the oncoming unconsciousness and the pain, and, of course, the drowning, as she sank deep into the water. The last thing she saw before losing consciousness was Bird grasping her in her... Wolves of Wind, Book 1, Feathers, Chapter 9, Sinking. Rain awoke in a small grassy flower-filled field. She coughed up water as she lifted her head. She looked around for Bird or the other mud-covered wolf, but neither of them were in sight, although she assumed that made sense since the mud-covered wolf had flown away. But where was Bird? Bird, she called, struggling to stand up. She was covered in small cuts and bruises, and her fur was heavy and waterlogged, but something about her felt peaceful. She saw a white wolf with bright blue eyes and pretty maroon wings. For the first time, she realized that she was albino. Rain also realized that she was much younger, probably because the only times that Rain had seen her were during a bloody moment in her life that she didn't want to think about right now. The albino she-wolf looked like she was probably only apprentice age, and when she thought about it, the albino wolf that had interrupted the meeting had been an older apprentice too. The white wolf's long white fur flowed off her like feathers as she approached Rain. "It is not your time," she said, staring into Rain's eyes. "Of course it's not," Rain howled desperately. She didn't want to die. "You're not supposed to be awake now. Get her back to the normal world," the she-wolf said, walking away. Suddenly, another wolf dragged her by the spine into a deep pool of black water and threw her in. The water didn't feel like drowning. It almost felt like she was falling through a soggy beach. The sharp shards of water cut into her pelt and pulled her back down into reality. She suddenly awoke and saw Bird's face up close. Rain instinctively pushed her away and struggled to stand up, coughing up water. You kissed me," she whispered cautiously, backing away. "Well, it wasn't like that," Bird said, hiding her face. "I was saving your life." Rain relaxed her shoulders, and her tail fell back down to its normal position. But she still felt her pelt growing hot as she looked at Bird. "Sorry, I just wasn't expecting that, I guess. Thanks for saving my life." Rain had never been kissed before, and not by a girl for sure. Many wolves looked down on it because it meant that they weren't able to have pups and make the pack stronger with their genes. Of course, Rain had never really thought about it, but she thought that it seemed okay. She and Bird looked anywhere but at each other. Rain didn't know about Bird, but she definitely knew that her face was probably bright red. She knew that her wings were definitely red-tipped. If a sky pack wolf was embarrassed, then their wings would gain red tips from blood or veins or something. But she hoped that Bird's face was blushing just as much. "So, where are we?" Rain asked, to break the awkward dead silence. "I don't know. I think we're just under the pine forest. But we might have drifted a little while in the water. Anyways, thank you for saving me and trusting me," Bird said, turning back to Rain. "I would always trust you. You know that, right?" Rain asked, tilting her head. Bird perked her ears and snapped her head up. You know? You would?" "Of course. You're my best friend," Rain said, wagging her tail. "Anyways, we need to find the way back to the forest before we catch a chill. It's freezing here," Rain said, shaking her pelt dry of the heavy water. "I don't think the water could have carried us very far away. You could probably carry me up to the top, since I don't have wings, of course," Bird said, looking up the huge slope that led up into the forest. I don't know if I'm strong enough. We should probably go around and look for a passage up. I don't want any more blood on my paws. Any more? What, you killed someone? Bird asked, tilting her head. We can talk about it more when we aren't in danger, Rain said, shaking her head. Well, now I'm curious, Bird protested as she caught up to Rain. Well, you're going to be curious for a while because I'm not answering until we get back up this cliff, Rain said, walking towards the steep, thin path that led upwards. You do realize that I will keep nagging you until you tell me, right? Bird asked as she caught up. Whoa, I can't climb up that, she said, shaking on her paws as she noticed the passageway. Don't worry, you can stay in front of me so if you fall I can catch you. I still don't think it's a very good idea, Bird said, looking around for another area to cross. Aha, she said, looking across the water. We can leap on that dead log and swim the rest of the way. I don't know how to swim, Rain whispered. Now it was Rain's turn to tremble at the sight of the water, and she realized that this was pretty much what she had just asked Bird to do with the slope. And Bird noticed that too. Well, you wanted me to go up there, and I want you to go across the water, so that leaves only one option. We'll climb up the slope? Rain asked hopefully. No, we'll split up and go different ways. Wolves of Wind Book 1, Feathers, Chapter 10, Found. Rain of course protested, but soon Bird convinced her and they both separated ways. Rain watched as Bird swam through the muddy swamp. It was covered in small green plants and leaves. They were sprawled across the muck. Yet Bird swam effortlessly through the thick mud water. Now could Rain climb just as effortlessly. She had wounded her wing while falling. She didn't think it was broken, but she wouldn't be able to fly. She wished she could just run back home and forget about the murders all around her. While Rain walked up the cliff, she thought about everything that had happened. She might as well find out something about the murderer while she was walking. She had started a suspects list when Ebony had been chased away. She knew that there was still someone out there. Flame was at the top of her list, since that was the only lead that Rain really had, and it was when she spoke up after Dawn died. She didn't have any lead other than that. Grass and Pine were also on the list, though neither really had a reason for any of this. Although to this extent, nobody had a reason. She knew that it wasn't a member of her family because whoever it was targeting her family. But suddenly she realized something. The wolf that had attacked her was a younger wolf, so it was either Boulder, Ivy, or Goldie, although it could be one of Riverpack's wolves too. But wouldn't Bird recognize her own pack scent? The young wolf's coordination was pretty good, and Boulder was blind, so it couldn't be him. She had met the Riverpack's apprentice, Skipper, in one of her meetings with Bird after he followed Bird to one of their meetings, and she knew that they were the only apprentices in Riverpack, so that left them with Skipper, Goldie, and Ivy. Unless it was Bird. Bird couldn't bring herself to think that. Her trail of thought was broken by the sound of an elk's death cry. She perked her ears and listened for more noise, but the forest stayed silent. She ran the rest of the way up the slope and saw a black figure with yellow eyes standing over an elk carcass. It was Ebony. She stalked closer to the banished she-wolf and saw that its stomach was slightly glossy, and despite ribs showing from clear starvation, it looked larger than average. She was a dame. Rain leapt out of the grass and snarled at the black she-wolf. She knew that she wouldn't hurt a dame, but she would at least scare her away. Despite the cruel black wolf's history, she wouldn't let the pups suffer from their mother's actions. If she did, then she would be no better than the wolf that killed her family. Ebony's head shot up, and she readied her wings to fly away quickly. But she hesitated for some reason, despite the clear danger. Why are you in our territory? Rain barked loudly. You have no place here after you killed my family. You have no place in the crater. I know, but not for the reason you think, Rain. The truth is, my pups come from both sides of the lake. Rain took a step back, but quickly found a retort. But you still killed them. You did so much wrong that the only place is safe for you is deep under the ocean or deep underground, but not in our territory, Rain snapped. No, I swear I didn't kill them. When Grass claimed I snuck away, it was to see my mate, nothing else. That would explain the problem about the mud drying insanely fast. Or this could just be a trick. How do I know you aren't lying? You have no proof, Rain said, stalking forwards. I can tell you what I know about the murderer, but we can't do it here and now. We need to wait for a good time, Ebony said, standing up. Then when? Rain asked, intrigued. She may not trust Ebony, but she would take anything about the murderer. Although that brought up a worse question. If it wasn't Ebony, then who was training the apprentice? All good things come from patience. So the midnight after you become a fighter, come to the tree where your brother died. I will wait there. Wait! I can't wait that long! Rain shouted as Ebony took off into the sky. Rain huffed and continued walking. Her paws were sore from stepping on pine cones, and her fur was still a little soggy from when she fell into the water. But she kept going. Soon she heard the sound of wolves. She must have found camp. But instead of a clearing, she saw Boulder and his sister Ivy. Cowering in front of them was a small white shape with crimson wings. Star! Nice catch, for a runt, Ivy laughed, looking down at Star's small finch. Rain had to admit it was pretty small. But I caught it, Star whimpered as the two wolves walked away into the forest. Rain didn't have time to help her brother. She had to get back to camp. As she passed the clearing with Star, she saw the shock dash across his face, followed by something else that Rain couldn't describe. She assumed that he was happy that she was alive, as it had been around a day since she had left to practice fighting with grass. Rain bolted towards the clearing and got a warm welcome back. She also explained what had happened. But she left out the part about Bird. She instead just said a river pack apprentice hunting fish along the border. The pack believed her partial lie. Several wolves, including Flame and Grass, thought that Ebony was probably lying, and there was only one murderer left. But Rain knew the truth. There were two murderers with them, and she had to be a fighter to prove it. Wolves of Wind, Book 1, Feathers. Chapter 11, Sorry. Rain began noticing Star getting bullied more and more now that she knew what to look for, and she had to admit that her brother did look a month younger than she and Dusty did. If she didn't know better, she would have said he was adopted. And she didn't know better. That's why she went to her mother with a question, one that could change her life and her family's life. Hello, dear. Is something wrong? Forrest asked, licking Rain's forehead. Oh, I hope not. Mother, is Star adopted? Rain asked, lowering her head and avoiding Forrest's gaze. Of course not, Forrest said a little too quickly. And you should be nice to your brother. It doesn't matter that he's smaller. He may be smaller, but he looks months younger than me and Dusty. Could he have somehow been taken in as an egg? Rain asked, looking back up at her mother. I'm his birth mother, Rain. Now go enjoy your apprenticehood. You won't be an apprentice forever. Who's his birth father? Rain pressed. Forrest sighed. You won't leave me alone about this, will you? Fine, I'll tell you who his parents are. Rain perked her ears. Star really was her half-brother. She hoped this wouldn't tear apart her family, or what was left of it anyway. Well, I suppose if I'm going to say, I'd better tell the pack and not just you. Come on, little Rain. It is time. Rain dipped her head and followed her mother, her pelt trembling as she realized what was about to happen. What if the pack didn't want Star or Forrest after this? Alpha, the time has come for me to share my secret with the pack, she called into the den. It is? Are you sure about this? Alpha's eyes shone with panic, and Rain tilted her head, confused. Yes, Alpha, it is time. I can't keep hiding this. Very well, I'll call the pack now, Alpha said, dipping his head. I'll go get Grass. He should be front line for this. He held the secret for so long that he'll want to know first. Rain decided to go wait in the clearing normally. She didn't want it to seem like she had anything to do with this, although of course she did. Pack, I have an important message to share with everyone. Gather beneath the high rocks of the clearing. All the wolves sat under their Alpha. Grass and Forest sat behind him, looking worried. As many of you know, during the floods, me, Grass, and Forest were lost beyond the crater, away from the Watch of Spirits. But there is more to this story. Many wolves murmured, and Rain started wondering if Grass was Star's father. Why would he be her otherwise? I am Star's father, and as Alpha, I understand that this was a mistake. But I was young and foolish back then. I couldn't control my feelings for Forrest, and it caused me to have to give up 2 of our precious eggs. Rain's eyes widened. Alpha was Star's father? How? Rain snarled and snapped their fang. So did all the other wolves around her. Grass seemed to shrink back, a snarl on his face as well. But why? Then Rain realized the thing that would change this all. Grass must have known. And there was something else, too. All 3 of them may have been traitors, but Alpha being part of this, it was unheard of. Grass helped keep this secret, and we kept one of the eggs for our own so that I could see my son every day. This is outrageous, Flame screeched from the back of the wolves. Our own Alpha, betraying us all. How dare he do this after he swore to put his clan before family? I swear, I didn't want Star to be born. It was all a mistake. Alpha's face fell as he realized his mistake. He had just called his son a mistake in front of the whole pack. Rain looked over to Star and saw that he was trembling. His white pelt looked like it would fall off if he shook any harder. But it wasn't with fear. It was with pure, black anger. Towards Rain. Star saw Rain staring and glared at her. Rain shrank down into the grass as he turned away. Had she just lost her brother because of her prying? Well, I don't care. If the Alpha will be crazy enough to do this, then I won't take part in this pack. I'm leaving. Anyone else is okay to follow me. Flame snarled and turned away to leave the camp. Tawny, Copper, and surprisingly Scramble followed after her, and Dusty stared in shock as her mentor left without even saying goodbye. Scramble was especially surprising because he did have pups on the way soon. He was Ice's mate. Star looked like he wanted to follow also, but he knew that his pack was better than no pack, even if said pack made his life terrible sometimes. Dusty and Star both looked at Rain. Dusty snarled and the 2 of them walked away to the other side of the clearing, far from Rain. Sorry, Rain whispered as they both left. Rain looked back, looking for sadness in Alpha or Grass or even Forrest's eyes, but instead she saw Grass glaring at Alpha as he walked back down the slope. Wolves of Wind, Book 1, Feathers, Chapter 12, Attack. Rain felt awfully gloomy the next day. Star always stood at the edge of camp away from everyone. Forrest was constantly sad. Dusty kept trying to cheer Star up, which I suppose is good. And Grass seemed to be drifting from the camp more and more. Rain felt like she had ruined her family. She hated feeling so helpless like this. Hey, Grass, do you think we could practice hunting today? Sorry, dear, I'm busy, Grass grumbled. Rain looked down at her paws and walked away. She was terrified about what might happen if they didn't find the killer soon. She had to act. But Ebony was only going to tell her who it was once Rain became a fighter. But why? Rain snarled and decided that if her mentor wasn't going to teach her to hunt and fight, then she would have to learn on her own. She ignored Star and Dusty glaring at her as she left the camp. She didn't need that. She had to believe this wasn't her fault. But it was. It was her fault. She had pushed and pushed, and now her family was being torn apart. Why did it matter that Alpha was Star's father? He was still raised by her parents. She realized that she hadn't seen Bird since they fell off the cliff and split up. She decided she might as well go to their meeting spot, even though she assumed that Bird wouldn't be there. When she arrived, she didn't see anyone. She looked around but didn't even smell Bird. What if she had been injured in the lake? Rain knew that crocodiles had been seen in that river. The river pack wolves actually looked a lot like otters. Suddenly, Rain stumbled over a large branch. She looked down at her paw when she saw a glint of red, but she realized that she wasn't injured. Red droplets fell from her paw, and she heard wing beats above her and looked up. She saw the young mud-covered wolf flying away. She looked over to the thing she had tripped on and was terrified to see that it was Alpha. She sniffed him. He was dead, but recently. Rain whimpered as she looked into Alpha's eyes, cold and lifeless. Help! Help, please! Rain shouted in terror, hoping someone would hear her cries. Hey, what's going on? Silver called from the bushes. She leapt out and her mouth opened in a wide gape. What in the name of Earthpack happened? Silver shouted as she ran over to the dead Alpha. I just found him like this. I saw that mud-covered apprentice again. Nonsense. There's no mud-covered apprentice, Psycho. You're making things up. Silver snarled, and Rain's surprise swiped at her eyes. I didn't do it. Stop! Rain cried as Silver slashed at her eye and drew blood. Rain felt the warm liquid trickle down her jaw. You're a murderer, a savage! Silver was acting insane. Rain swiped out randomly with her claws as blood welled in her eyes. She felt her claws tear skin. Rain heard a screech of pain and looked up to see Silver backing away, a bloody scratch across her eye. She had been blinded. Rain looked at her in terror. She had blinded someone, and not even on purpose. Other wolves began to swoop down from the treetops, clearly hearing the fight. Flame landed in front of her so close that their noses touched. Rain stared at the half-blinded wolf behind her. This couldn't be happening. None of it could. Come on, we must choose a new alpha to decide what to do about your filth. Rain lowered her head, blood dripping off her claws from the fight. She followed Flame through the forest and back to where a new alpha would be chosen. Rain saw Forest's eyes welling up with tears as she followed. She must be grieving for her loved one, but that was not the only problem. Rain knew that blinding another wolf was a crime that could be solved through banishment, and if she was banished, then she could not help her pack find the murderer. She had doomed her pack the moment she asked that question about Star, the question that had changed everything, and the other wolves were walking straight to their deaths, and there was nothing Rain could do about it. Wolves of Wind, Book 1, Feathers, Chapter 13, Flame. Rain watched as all the wolves, older than 2 years and younger than 6 years, lined up with enough space between them to know who voted for who. Forest, Grass, Silver, Pepper, and Blue sat apart from each other, and Rain watched as wolves voted for who they thought would be best by sitting behind them. Rain chose Grass because he was her mentor and might go easy on her, although she probably should have chosen Forest, being that she was her mother, but she was still pretty angry at her. Star chose Silver, and Dusty chose Forest. In the end, Grass had the least votes, with only Rain and Ice sitting behind him, and Blue won with 5 wolves behind her. Blue was the new alpha, and a well-picked one at that. Blue had always seemed like she had alpha material inside her heart. Blue, Alpha, cleared her throat and walked up the rocky dirt mound to give Rain's order. Rain's heart pounded and her ears were pounding. Her stomach seemed to be tied in a knot that would put a large snake to shame. We come here today to address the punishment of the young apprentice Rain. As many of you have seen, Rain has half-blinded Silver after Silver found her sitting with the corpse of our dead Alpha. Many wolves murmured and looked at Rain, too many unfriendly faces everywhere. Rain has been seen at all of the wolves' death sites and has found all the bodies. She also has put it in the air that 2 mud-covered beasts are wandering our camps and killing our wolves. But I, for one, do not believe this. We cannot allow these rumors to spread, and for this I believe this young wolf, who shall be soon old enough to become a fighter, shall face banishment for the crimes and lie-spreading. All in favor, lend me your voices. Many wolves howled. Among the ones that didn't were Forest, Ice, Scramble, and Tawny. But it wasn't enough, and the majority of her pack wished for her to leave. Suddenly, out of the crowd burst Star. He leapt onto her and bit at her neck harshly. Rain kicked him off with her back legs and burst from the crowd, flying away with Silver and Flame hot in her tail. Now she knew how Ebony had felt when she was being chased by Skypack. Rain hated that she had thought murder was a suitable punishment for Ebony. She felt terror coursing through her pelt as she flew away towards the edge of Skypack's territory. She had to find Ebony. There was no way that she would become a fighter now, and hopefully Ebony would see that too. Rain's stomach growled. She hadn't eaten that day, and only now did she wish she had before going away to hunt. Suddenly a mouth-watering scent filled her nose, and she curved sharply to the right. She would find Ebony later, but for now she might as well get her strength up. Rain soon found the source of a smell, a wild moose and her calf. But Rain didn't have a pack to help her. She hesitated a moment before diving down to bite the moose's neck, but suddenly a loud noise that was like thunder sounded. The air smelled of smoke suddenly. Rain turned her neck sharply and lifted herself as she saw a strange white and green shape under her. And she also saw fire. The thing backed up, then looked up. And then Rain saw its face. The thing was tan and had a black blob of fur on top of its head. It looked as if something had plucked all its fur and then died before it got to the top of its head. The thing screamed and fell over, landing on a rock and falling asleep, but Rain was focusing on the burning flame that seemed to be getting bigger. Rain tried to fly away, but suddenly a branch cracked from the trees above her and landed on her wing. She yelped as she came crashing to the ground with bark and fire covering her pelt. The fire snaked towards her menacingly. Rain's face felt hot as the smoke wafted closer. Her eyes blurred as the fire ate the leaves. It was still hungry. She tried to struggle free, but the branch was crushing her wing. And this time it was really broken. Unlike the time when she was with Bird before. Suddenly, a black shape with blue wings leapt over her and began prying her wing free. Ebony! Wolves of Wind, Book 1, Feathers. Chapter 14, Proof. The hungry flames burned Rain's nostrils as Ebony lifted the branch off her wing. "What are you doing out here?" Ebony shouted over the roaring forest. "I was hunting and I found Elpha dead. Silver attacked me and I accidentally blinded her." "You did what?" Ebony shouted as the two of them tried to run to the edge of the forest. "No time to say it again," Rain said, ducking under a fallen branch blocking her path. Her fur was covered in soot and ash. She saw the clearing ahead and ran faster. Suddenly, a huge muddy lump of rocks and branches spilled down. Rain dodged, but Ebony had not seen it, and it crashed down on her back. "Ebony!" Rain shouted, digging in the mud. I'm here, but there's not enough time to help me. I'll tell you who it is now." "Ebony, no! You aren't dying here." "Maybe not, but you aren't staying here long enough to find out. There isn't enough time." Okay, fine. Now who did it?" "I'm not sure, but I can say that one of them is Grass. Now please go." "Grass?" Rain's confused plea turned into a yelp as a boulder landed next to her. "Yes, now go and save your pack. Fast!" Rain didn't need to be told again. The fire was gobbling up the forest around her, so fast that it was just a blur of orange, red, and yellow. She raced through the forest, looking back at Ebony as the smoke enclosed the forest in black. Ebony's face was smiling as the smoke engulfed her. But Rain could have sworn that she had seen the black wolf stand up and run away. Rain snarled as some of the fire burned her tail. She felt her pelt fur falling off her pelt, and wondered if this was how those strange creatures were born. She didn't want to be a hairless beast that walked on two paws. Eventually, water began falling from the clouds, and the fire sank back into the ground. Rain was tired and decided that she wouldn't make it back home as she was, so she took a chance and rested under a burnt tree. The tree smelled of smoke, and Rain's eyes stung with tears, but not from the fire, from her discovery. Now looking back on it, she was surprised nobody else thought it was Grass. He had constantly been snarling and grimacing, but really what it had been was smiling. Grass, the cowardly Omega, had smiled during the death of her family. But why would he kill her family? Then she realized. Grass must have loved Forest. Grass had glared at Alpha. Then the next day Alpha had been killed, and he had killed Bold and Dawn because they weren't his. Rain whimpered as she fell asleep. Her dreams danced with nightmares of blood and death as Rain cowered in a corner with Star and Dusty, but this time the figure covered in blood was not a brown shape. It was a sorrowed, bloody mess of flames. Rain awoke from her dream with a yelp. She was soaked with cold sweat as she stood up to go confront Grass. But would her pack believe her? She had been banished. Rain ran from the camp, pine cones and debris clinging to her pelt. But she didn't care as long as Star, Dusty, and Forest lived through this. It was night when she arrived at camp, and she didn't see anyone anywhere. But she had to do this without anyone seeing her. Otherwise, they would chase her away. Rain crept towards the fighter's den, where she knew Grass would be sleeping. But before she made it halfway across camp, she saw a limp shape. She was horrified who it could be. Could it be Star? What about Dusty? Rain gasped as she saw who it was, because it was not a family member. Grass lay in a pool of his own blood, tons of small scratches battering his pelt, but his throat was torn open with a wolf's bite. Rain looked around, and her pelt stood on end when she heard a young voice. "Hello, sister." Wolves of Wind, Book 1, Feathers, Chapter 15, Battle. "Star?" Rain said in shock. "Star was the killer? But But how? How? And why? And how? Yes, it's me, Rain, and I have to admit you are nowhere near the truth. But I thought Grass killed... Star cut her off. Oh yes, sister, Grass did kill Dawn. Then I killed him. But why? Why are you doing this? Rain whispered. You would have understood if you were old, although maybe not if you're fine with standing by while my life crumbles. You saw Boulder and Ivy bullying me, and you just ran on by, and I'm sick of being the short end of the foxtail. But why did you kill Grass and Dad? So pretty, yet so dumb still. I killed Bold because Grass told me to kill him, and Grass was the only one who had told me the truth. And I killed him because he was going to drag me down, smirking and smiling at every funeral. I'm surprised he died before he was caught. Please, it's not everyone else's fault that Ivy was being mean, and I'm sure she dragged him along. There you go, defending your little boyfriend. I saw you blush when he snarled at those wolves back when we were pups. I bet you didn't even notice me watching. Because nobody ever pays attention to me, just because I was born different. And do you know what I learned from Grass? I have 2 albino siblings. And do you know what else I learned? They were one dead and one loner, because of Alpha and Forest. Rain's paws shook as she backed away, bumping into Grass's bloody body as she did so. Well, Rain, I suppose it's time for me to tie up some loose ends. Stay still and I won't make this hurt. No! Rain shrieked as she ducked forwards and bowled into her brother. He was taken by surprise and wasn't able to duck in time. He fell to the floor but quickly scrambled up to retaliate. Rain ducked as he leapt at her, but her timing was off because Grass hadn't trained her very well. Star leapt onto her back and bit at her, scratching her leg and drawing blood. Rain let out a screech of pain, but Star's long black claws scratched her muzzle and turned her scream into a whimper of pain. Star rolled off her and leapt again, rolling her onto her back and pinning her down. Rain recognized this position. Star had tried to kill her before, but now Bird wasn't here to save her from the sharp claws and snapping muzzle. Star slashed at her stomach, drawing blood from a deep wound. Rain's eyes watered as she looked down at the deep cut that would surely scar. Then Rain remembered all the times she had fought, all the way from when she was play fighting with her siblings. Star was noticeably in the memory to when she had slashed the half-blinded Silver. She focused on what she had done all those times. She had let her instincts lead her claws where they had to go. She closed her eyes and slashed her paws randomly. She felt her long claws snap through flesh, and she heard a yelp as the weight lifted off her. She opened her eyes and stood up, ready to face a furious white wolf with angry red-pink eyes. But instead she saw a trembling, bloody shape lying on the ground. Star! She ran over to her brother and saw that his throat had been torn and blood was spilling from his mouth and nose. But he was still alive. You can't win this, he spluttered. You can't live. I worked so hard to prove myself. I won't be killed by the weakest fighter in the pack. Rain closed her eyes and put her paw on his head. She tightened her muscles and heard the splatter of blood as her brother went still. Rain knew that at this point it was all she could do to rid her brother of pain. Tears of shock and sadness welled her eyes as she looked down at her dead brother. But then wolves began spilling out of the dens, Alpha in the lead. Wolves of Wind, Book 1, Feathers, Chapter 15, Battle. Star? Rain said in shock. Star was the killer? But how? How? And why? And how? Yes, it's me, Rain, and I have to admit you are nowhere near the truth. But I thought Grass killed... Star cut her off. Oh yes, sister, Grass did kill Dawn. Then I killed him. But why? Why are you doing this? Rain whispered. You would have understood if you were old, although maybe not if you're fine with standing by while my life crumbles. You saw Boulder and Ivy bullying me, and you just ran on by, and I'm sick of being the short end of the foxtail. But why did you kill Grass and Dad? So pretty, yet so dumb still. I killed Bold because Grass told me to kill him, and Grass was the only one who had told me the truth. And I killed him because he was going to drag me down, smirking and smiling at every funeral. I'm surprised he died before he was caught. Please, it's not everyone else's fault that Ivy was being mean, and I'm sure she dragged him along. There you go, defending your little boyfriend. I saw you blush when he snarled at those wolves back when we were pups. I bet you didn't even notice me watching. Because nobody ever pays attention to me, just because I was born different. And do you know what I learned from grass? I have 2 albino siblings. And do you know what else I learned? They were one dead and one loner, because of Alpha and Forest. Rain's paws shook as she backed away, bumping into Grass's bloody body as she did so. Well, Rain, I suppose it's time for me to tie up some loose ends. Stay still and I won't make this hurt. No! Rain shrieked as she ducked forwards and bowled into her brother. He was taken by surprise and wasn't able to duck in time. He fell to the floor but quickly scrambled up to retaliate. Rain ducked as he leapt at her, but her timing was off because Grass hadn't trained her very well. Star leapt onto her back and bit at her, scratching her leg and drawing blood. Rain let out a screech of pain, but Star's long black claws scratched her muzzle and turned her scream into a whimper of pain. Star rolled off her and leapt again, rolling her onto her back and pinning her down. Rain recognized this position. Star had tried to kill her before. But now Bird wasn't here to save her from the sharp claws and snapping muzzle. Star slashed at her stomach, drawing blood from a deep wound. Rain's eyes watered as she looked down at the deep cut that would surely scar. Then Rain remembered all the times she had fought, all the way from when she was play fighting with her siblings. Star was noticeably in the memory to when she had slashed the half-blinded Silver. She focused on what she had done all those times. She had let her instincts lead her claws where they had to go. She closed her eyes and slashed her paws randomly. She felt her long claws snap through flesh, and she heard a yelp as the weight lifted off her. She opened her eyes and stood up, ready to face a furious white wolf with angry red-pink eyes. But instead she saw a trembling, bloody shape lying on the ground. Star! She ran over to her brother and saw that his throat had been torn and blood was spilling from his mouth and nose. But he was still alive. You can't win this, he spluttered. You can't live. I worked so hard to prove myself. I won't be killed by the weakest fighter in the pack. Rain closed her eyes and put her paw on his head. She tightened her muscles and heard the splatter of blood as her brother went still. Rain knew that at this point it was all she could do to rid her brother of pain. Tears of shock and sadness welled her eyes as she looked down at her dead brother. But then wolves began spilling out of the dens, Alpha in the lead. Wolves of Wind, Book 1, Feathers. Chapter 7, Pack. The finale. Rain lay on the warm rocks at the edge of camp, her silver fur shining in the sun. Boulder lay beside her, sprawled in the sun as well. Rain was enjoying the peace of not needing to worry about murders at every turn. The pack was doing well, and Yellowgrass brought many elk herds in their territory. All the wolves would gain enough weight for Redgrass and Blindgrass, and after that the cycle would restart with prey season. Then Yellowgrass would come again. I think I'm going to go hunting. We can't have enough prey for Redgrass after all. Sure, honey, just be safe. Rain bounded away from the camp, but she didn't go towards hunting grounds. Instead, she went towards the river pack border. Rain sat down by the stream separating the two territories and waited for Bird to come. Soon, Bird came bounding out of the bushes, her white pelt gleaming with happiness. Hello, I had something to ask you today, if you don't mind, Bird said, wagging her tail. First, I have some even better news, Rain said, standing up and wagging her tail. Sure, what is it? Bird asked, sitting down. Last night, I caught the murderers. It was my brother and my mentor, but that doesn't matter anymore. I have something else to say. Bird looked confused as Rain began telling her about Boulder, but her gaze switched to sadness as she heard about them being mates now. That's great, Rain, Bird said, faking a smile. Is something wrong, Bird? Rain asked, tilting her head confused. No, nothing. I just wanted to say that I'm a long swimmer now. I assume you're a fighter? She asked, looking down slightly. I'm really excited to be a full-fledged fighter now. That's great. Anyways, I have to go back to the camp now. But I don't think I'll be able to come back towards the border for a while. Did I say something wrong? Rain called after Bird as she ran away towards the Riverpack camp. But Rain was pretty sure that all it was that she would be busy being a long swimmer. Rain came back to the river every day, and then again at night. Bird was never there. Rain started to wonder if Bird didn't like her anymore. Whatever. If she wasn't going to be happy for me, then I don't want to be her friend. Rain snorted as she walked back towards camp. It's not like she saved my life all those times. Tears stung Rain's eyes, but she wiped them off when she got back to the den. Boulder was waiting for her at the entrance to the fighter's den. What are you doing here, Boulder? Did you want to ask me something? Yes, I want to sleep in the fighter's den tonight. I just want to spend more time with you tonight. Is Alpha okay with that? Rain asked, tilting her head. Who says he has to know? Boulder asked, licking her forehead. Boulder, you really should respect the Alpha, and why are you being so strange all of a sudden? Besides, Blue's a she-wolf. Rain, that's not fair. Am I not allowed to be your mate, to love you? Boulder asked, straightening his tail. Of course you are. Why are you being so clingy? It's fine, whatever. I'll just go sleep in my nest alone. Rain didn't want to hurt his feelings. Sorry, she called after him as he bounded away. Yeah, apology accepted or whatever, he mumbled over his shoulder. Rain crawled into her nest and curled up. She shut her eyes and fell asleep quickly. Rain awoke in the grassy wet field of Earthpack territory. 3 white gleaming shapes flew down and landed around her in a circle. She recognized them as the 2 albino wolves from before, one a loner and one dead. But there was a 3rd shape beside them, Star. Rain stared up at him in confusion. He was accepted into Earthpack? All the bad wolves were supposed to fade when they died. So why was Star here? Suddenly the sky shattered into icy shards that faded as they fell to the grass. 3 wispy shapes whirled together in the sky. One white, one silver, and one gray. The gray wolf suddenly turned red and leapt at the white wolf. The silver wolf leapt at the gray wolf, and they blended together. 3 different shades of gray together. Then a gray blob was thrust from the silver and white mix and was whisked away on the wind. The 2 remaining blobs turned back into wolves and touched their noses together. Suddenly, Rain awoke, feeling confused about her prophecy. She had already fulfilled a prophecy. She didn't want another. Rain yawned and decided that she would ignore this prophecy. She just wanted a normal life. However, of course, prophecies cannot be ignored forever, and soon it would rise fiercer than ever. So I just wanted to say that this is a really interesting book. I do definitely plan to do another book after this. In fact, it's not just a plan. I have actually already started writing it. And I'm really excited to continue along with the story. If you want to have something of your ideas listed in my next book, then, like I said in the Shelter 2 video that I made back when I first came back, right before the spring break, then that is fully welcome in the comments. I would love to look into them, actually. And I think that would be really cool to take in everyone's suggestions and somehow incorporate something similar, or maybe exactly that, into the books. And I just really want to thank you all for joining me in the story of Rain, Bird, and this murder mystery journey that they have taken. I definitely tried to go for a plot twist there, although I did leave lots of hints. And I do definitely think that you all will have to wait quite some time for me to make the next book, so cliffhangers. But anyways, I will see you all next time. Bye-bye!